Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we are discussing the original 39mm Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Chronograph, reference 25860ST with blue Grande Tapisserie dial. This model launched back in 1997, and the size was manufactured in this reference until 2011, replaced by the 41 for 2012. AP immediately recognized its error, and so for 2019, it brought back a similar 38mm model. This is the first, the original, and the most sought. So, being 39mm in stainless steel, that's the diameter. The watch is a little bit more slender in profile. As you can see, it's 11.2 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip. The case by itself measures 49 millimeters. Then if we measure these little intermediate plots, these intermediate outer links, the total distance across the wrist is 52.5 millimeters. Now the watch is a E series, mid-E series, E49000, so you get a rough sense of when this sequentially serialed Audemars Piguet was made. You can see that it has an earlier version of the single fold deployant clasp, and on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, it fits perfectly. I can recommend it for a wrist as long as your wrist is oval. A wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. This is actually worth trying on a lady's wrist. It's low enough with its sloped bezel that it will fit underneath the dress cuff, and you can see the further I move from the camera, the better it looks in relation to my hand and my arm, which are actually quite a bit larger than you're used to seeing on the camera. The proportion of the watch is excellent. Taking a look at the bracelet, you can see one of the reasons you buy a Royal Oak is for the hand finishing. I've repeated it many times, but it bears repetition just in case this is the first time you've watched one of my Royal Oak videos. It takes 9 to 11 hours to manually finish all of these links, and that's just the time required for the bracelet. The bevels are perfectly aligned across the shoulders of the links. The tops are satinated. You can see that the flanks are actually vertically satinated rather than longitudinally. We have little polished ends to the intermediate links. You can really only see those polished faces as you roll the bracelet through the light. You can't see it as it sits flat on the wrist, and that's attention to detail. You can also see that AP does things the right way, fixing the bracelet to the case with screws and bars. No spring bars here, making for greater security on the wrist. Now the tolerances, the step down as the links taper, I can see the taper, but I can't really feel the step down from link to link. When I pull the bracelet off to the side and I run my finger, it feels like one smooth sweep of metal. The tolerances are incredible. Removable links are fixed by screws, no pin sleeves here, and we have a single fold deployant clasp, which you can see has a single trigger that you pull back in order to close it or open it. So it's a single trigger release, so it can't pop open by accident. Roll into the case, even more time is expended on all of these facets. You can see straight line, straight grain satination on the case flank longitudinal, as well as on the tops of the lugs. You can see that the bevel on the edge of the case actually expands as you approach the lugs and the links, but then it disappears at the mid case. The case itself features perfect symmetry as there's faceting through the bezel top, the bezel side, the case flank, and then the case back. And then around the crown guard structure, you can see there's a lot of faceting with satination and polished bevels there as well. We have screw-down crowns, screw-down pushers, 50-meter water resistance, surface swimmable. And you can see that the shoulders for the pushers, as well as the crown shape, hexagonal to match the hexagonal white gold bolts that sit inside the bezel. The bezel is a rounded octagon, originally inspired by a vintage diving helmet. This shape, bracelet case bezel, was originally drawn in 1972 by designer Gerald Genta, creating then the first Royal Oak, the 5402. That was a 39mm just as this is, so this preserves a lot of the aesthetic essence of the original. And you can see that there's a warmth to that white gold compared to the silver white of the stainless steel. You can also see that these little bolts are quite well recessed within the bezel. This is something you often look for on older Royal Oaks to see whether they've been excessively polished. If the bolts are flush or actually standing proud of the bezel, then the bezel is exhausted and needs to be replaced. The bolts should be sunken inside the bezel. They should be recessed as they are here. We have satination as well as polish and sharp breaks between polish and satin on this bezel. This is a labor-intensive component to finish. The dial, though it may look black on screen, is navy blue. This is the blue galvanized Grande Tapisserie. It is the large hobnail, and it is made the old-fashioned way on a pantograph lathe. Back when this watch would have been made in the mid-E series, the dial would have been made by Stern Creation for Audemars Piguet on a pantograph. We have sunken sub-registers with polished chapter rings, and then you can see that we have applique indices as well as white varnished baton-style hour and minute hands with a white varnished counterweighted lancet-style seconds hand. We have chronograph minutes, chronograph hours, constant seconds. We'll do a quick loom shot, and this watch has plenty of it. You can see it is a well-loomed sports watch. Now, inside the case, underneath this case back, is a Frederic Piguet 1185 doing business as AP caliber 2385. It is a high horology, thin, automatic, integrated chronograph caliber. In other words, it's worthy of a watch like this. Now, the movement is a unidirectional automatic winder with a 40-hour power reserve. It beats away at 6 beats per second. It has a quick set for the date, though it does not have hacking seconds. It does have a vertical clutch and a column wheel for operation, and the vertical clutch ensures that the chronograph engages without jump or stagger, and if you wish, you can leave the chronograph running full-time with a vertical clutch. There's no additional hazard to the movement. The column wheel makes for crispness, the vertical clutch makes for smoothness, and of course, the movement is adjusted in 5 positions, which is the high horology standard for upscale movements, and it features 37 pivot jewels. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.